Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of The Cheap Seats. This is your weekly Premier League show, but we have an FPL show happening today. It is Cheap Seats FPL giving you the FPL 2022-23 season preview. It starts on Friday night. So remember, get your teams in on Friday night because Kent and I are going to go through a whole lot of emotions on Friday night. And then Saturday will be free to watch everyone else suffer through the most. We've got everybody here. We've got Tepper, we've got Kent, we've got Dean. We've also got Cyrus. And the gents are ready to tell you what they're going to do in this season of FPL. Kent won our league last season, so we have him here as well. We've got Teppo, who finished second, unless if Dean wants to fight me, who finished a third. It was a late surge.
Script at the post.
Yes, it was a bit of a late surge.
I know what it feels like to be Arsenal now, so it's fun.
Now know what it means to
Arsenal pulled the Spurs. I mean,
Arsenal,
you just had the same feeling.
Our rebuttal to that is that Dean finished third in a two-man horse race, which is like Spurs.
Someone said that before. Well, he said that, and I was like, guys, that's disrespectful. I've been here the whole time. I was top of the league once. I was there. Come on, man.
Okay, guys, let's do some admin. We remember the show is sponsored by Classic Shirt ZA, but we've got a competition time. We've got a competition happening on our Instagram pages. Our Instagram page is One World Sports Radio in full caps. You'll find us there. Also at Classic Shirt ZA, you can win the jersey of your choice that was in Date Night Drip. So go to Date Night Drip, have a look, and see and enter the competition. Then you can then possibly win one of those jerseys. The way to get into the competition is as follows. You will need to, it is a little bit lengthy, go and like the post on One World Sports Radio's Instagram, or even on Classic Shirt ZA's Instagram. The next one would be to tag a friend in the comments. One comment gives you one entry. And then finally, the last one is to follow at the bottom, follow Classic Shirt ZA and subscribe to the One World Sports Radio YouTube channel. There's still a lot of things to happen, but the winner will be announced or contacted on Friday, and we'll announce the winner next week on the show. We've got another show happening later on the week, but that's our season preview. But FPL is a really nice way to get ourselves in. Everyone's got their teams in. I had my draft last week. Managed to get some really weird and wonderful players. I went for Jed Spence, and then all the guys were like, he's not going to start, and it was just wild. So I got the guys in to kind of tell us what they need to do. We're going to go from position to position as we go along. The first set of position we're going to be going through is the goalkeeper position. I've asked the guys to tell us what they're looking for in a goalkeeper, what they must-haves are for the goalkeeper this season of FPL, and also are there any value buys. I'm going to start with the champion, Kent. Kent, what are you looking for in a goalkeeper this season?
So I'm going with an approach where I don't want to be spending more than 9 million in total on my goalkeepers. So there's a trick that has just been mentioned as that Schmeichel's been sold to Nice, and Leicester now have two 4.0 keepers. So you can go for Iverson and Ward at 4.0, and whoever starts or whoever plays, the other keeper can come off your bench if the other starts. And as long as Leicester don't replace anyone by the start of the season, you can go with an 8 million combination. So that is the value buy. I'm going with Raya though, and a 4.0, so I'll be spending 8.5. I'm happy with Raya. I think Brentford have good fixtures to start. And yeah, Brentford looked fine at the end of last season, and Raya looks like he's cemented his spot back there. So yeah, I'm not looking to spend high amounts of value in my goalkeepers. I just want consistency and the odd clean sheet.
Okay. I also went with David Raya as my keeper, but I'll go to the other man who came second, Teppo. What's your strategy when you're looking at a goalkeeper?
Yeah, I don't want to spend, as Ken said, you don't want to spend too much money there. I've been considering, or someone tried to convince me of going for a premium keeper, but it just doesn't add up. You're losing a lot of value that you could pump into the attack. So I was thinking 5.0 max, and I'm sitting right now with Ramsdale, but I'm not really feeling. I like him for his fixtures though. His fixtures are very, very good. So you're going to get a lot of clean sheets, and he's been decent for save points before last season as well. So you get the best of both worlds there. But the 4.5 keepers are definitely worth looking at as well. Your likes of Melier, he might get a lot of save points. So yeah, nothing more than 5.
Before I go to Dean, I'm just gonna put in my little 2 cents. I went with the $9 million strategy for goalkeepers. Obviously, Raya, as Kent has mentioned, has been my guy even last season. I've
Forever. You are a closet Brentford fan.
Yes, I am. But because Bernd Leno moved to Fulham and the transfer's gone through on FPL, Bernd Leno is my reserve keeper. So I'm going to be switching them depending on how the fixtures look. But I'm loving that Bernd Leno pick at Fulham, and so for me, he was my value pick there. Dean, what are you looking for in a goalkeeper, and who you're looking at?
So before the start of the season, I actually saw some interesting stats on it. And last season, the difference between the top ranked goalkeeper and 10th ranked goalkeeper was only 50 points. So the amount of points that you're getting from your goalkeepers are like negligible. So that's why spending the 5.5 on Edison as a goalkeeper is not worth it. So I took that little bit of knowledge and also sticking on a 4 million and 4.5. But my 4.5 that I went for is Sanchez from Brighton. I know they've got Man United first up, which may or may not be easy. But they've got pretty decent fixtures all the way pretty much until like mid-October. They play Liverpool during that time. But I don't need anything other than a keeper that's going to start, which Sanchez is going to do week in, week out. And if he gets a couple save points, that's what ultimately decides a good keeper from a not a good keeper. And he's pretty good at shot stopping, so he's my man. And then, as Ken said, Danny Ward from Leicester. It's as soon as you get a 4 million keeper that could probably play, like we had Forster last year for Watford, straight in the team. He can sit there forever. I won't even change him. So that's what I'm looking at. But yeah, there's a lot of don't spend too much as your goalkeepers is essentially, I guess, the point we're all trying to say.
So no Wayne Hennessy at Nottingham Forest. Is there not a relegation play to be like, look, they're going to get relegated. Someone's going to save a lot, even though you might not get the clean sheets.
I think also there's got to be like fixtures. You have to look fixture-wise. But I mean, like you mentioned, Bernd Leno, Fulham's first 6 fixtures are shocking. So I reckon they're going to get a couple.
He's going to be busy.
So he's going to be very busy. And the man hasn't played for a year. So there's a lot of variables, which I think there's too many variables that actually matter. So I think just stick someone there and forget about it.
And then, Sai, what are you looking for in a goalkeeper this season?
I see you save the best for worst, or the worst for last. Either one of those. So I tend to not want to spend too much. And last season, what I did was I got 2 goalkeepers who were pretty good on a similar pricing in Martinez and who was the Brighton goalkeeper again?
Sanchez.
Sanchez. So, and I swapped between them. I've actually gone a little bit more pricey than I wanted to. And I put Nick Pope in because I think that Newcastle will be he should be one of the better goalkeepers in the league. But I think I went more football manager than fantasy football. But I like the idea that Newcastle will still face a lot of shots and he should still do quite well for them as a goalkeeper, and then try to save some money in getting a Dean Henderson, because I couldn't decide who might be playing for some of the promoted teams. And the same thing is Dean Henderson is the same price as a Bernd Leno. So, he's also going to face a hell of a lot of shots, and he's got a mouth and he needs to back that up with saves. So, if anything, his mouth has been writing checks and he needs to try and cash those.
Fact.
Cool. Stars, I'm going to stay with you as we move over to the next category. That is defenders. A lot of guys like to go for wing backs. Some guys like center backs. Others like to go find somebody who is a defender or a midfielder. What are you going for this season?
As the poet laureate Sir Mix-a-Lot once said, I like big backs and I cannot lie. So I tend to never go with central defenders, primarily because I've always felt that you'll get more points from guys who'll try and give you some chance creation. And so I've often gone with like these sort of wing backs to see what we can get. Though having said that, I had Rudiger in my team for quite some time. The clean sheet points are great, and then also he played in with the goals here and there. Rudiger's gone. I'm gonna cry. I don't think Koulibaly is as good in the air. So I've looked at a few more wing backs, and obviously Trent is going to be there in everyone's team. And then the second best pick from there would be Reece James. The only thing that I wasn't quite sure on, and I took a punt on him quite early, is Marco Correa. That I figured you could get him at a relatively good price if he's still at Brighton, and then wherever he goes from there might be worthwhile. So I thought, okay, this is when the City buzz was happening, I thought he's going to probably play at City. And now the Chelsea thing's happening, and I'm like, will he play ahead of Chilwell? And we think Pep Roulette's bad. I think Tuchel Roulette might be like one single bullet, maybe even two bullets in the gun. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, I've often gone with the wing-back strategy.
Cool. Temple, who's your must-have as a defender? Outside of, I think, is Trent a must-have for you? Actually,
yes.
Let's start with that.
There's no doubt he's the best player in the game. Don't do that to yourself. Just keep Trent in your team. That's a no-brainer.
You mean it's not Luke Shaw?
Roberto Carlos, dude.
To put it into perspective, Wahid thought he could go without Trent. So if Wahid thinks you can go without, you put Trent in.
Go with Trent.
So,
yes. Yeah. Okay, but also just as spicy. His partner in crime on the other side of the field, Andrew Robertson, who, is a good budget pick if you're like, I don't feel like going for Trent. So in a system where the wing backs are constantly in the box, like Chelsea's system last season, like Liverpool's system all season, jump on that train. And the fixtures as well for Liverpool are just astounding. They're just so good. Robertson's going to get returns. He got returns in the Charity Shield. So don't sleep on him. I have him and Trent. If you don't want to be as pricey, you can do it. You can just have one or the other. Okay.
Kent, what is a value pick at center at defense for you? What I went is I chose Trent, and then I went with a whole lot of 4.5 defenders. And mostly wing backs like Cyrus. But what are you looking for in that back line?
So I'm going to go quite expensive at the back. I'm going Robertson, Trent. I think those two. I'm going to definitely double up on them. I think Liverpool have great fixtures, and if you look at how much points they get for their price tag, if you had a midfielder who would cost 7 million, getting that amount of points, you would get him. It's a no-brainer. So why are we debating that we can't spend 7.5 on a defender?
Okay.
So
I'm falling in love as you speak. Unbelievable. That's just great advice.
I think Robertson, Trent, and even Cancelo are for me non-negotiables. They will all be in my team. But then you have to go with a very value pick, and that's where there's two players that you can go for, and you can go for Nico Williams, who's now at Nottingham Forest. I see him starting. And there's Patterson from Everton, who's also been starting. Yeah, he's also 4.0. Both of those will be on my bench, and if needed, they can come on. They only cost 4 million, but I will be going big at the back starting. But yeah, just to help with the budget, because I'm going big at the back, I'm going to have a 4.0 defender then. No 4.5s at this point.
Okay. That's a very interesting strategy. I've been taking down notes. Dean, he's gone big. What are you doing?
I mean, so I think last season was the first time that I can remember in a long time that this whole big at the back thing came around. Like previously it was get one good guy, probably Trent, and then just fill it with 4.5s like Stuart Dallas from 2 seasons ago.
Stuart Dallas. Forgot about him.
This big at the back is definitely a thing because of a lot of the top 6 teams playing with the wing back. So everyone's just piling on there. So I think we've already mentioned everyone. For me, I've got James, Cancelo, Trent, and Nico Williams as well at the 4 million. But the one person I've also stuck in there is Perisic from Spurs. He's 5.5.
He's good.
It is concerning with the minutes, which I never put him in straight away, but he played 70 odd minutes against Roma on the weekend and 30 odd minutes before that in our previous game. So I could switch Perisic out, just depending on what Conte comes out and says before the game. But looking at just tying into the Liverpool comments, most people are probably going to triple up on Liverpool, and it's one of those positions is definitely Salah, and the other one is definitely Trent. So the decision comes as Luis Diaz or Robbo as defense versus midfield. So that's where it comes in. And if you've got the cash, for me, obviously go Robbo. I didn't have the cash, so I had to go cheaper. So 5.5 for me. Had Perisic. If he doesn't play, I can downgrade that to like a Trippier, for example, who will also play for Newcastle. They're decent fixtures, but he'll definitely play. So you also have to manage within your budget. But yeah, that's just a couple of my thoughts.
Cyrus?
I had a question for everybody. Obviously, we're talking about cheaper defenders. What do you guys think of Tariq Lamptey? Because I've got him in my team. And I think he'll be one of those who he's showed that he can be a really good attacking threat and potentially might be an important player for Brighton. And when you look at the fact that he's hardly been selected, he's like, I think, selected by 2.9% of people in the game at 4.5 price range, and he scored 74 points last season. Do you think he's worth a punt?
It's injury for me.
It's his injury record. The man was I think he had a breakout season 2 seasons ago, and a few people put him into their teams then. However, I think last season he didn't play that much. He would have got way more than 75 if he was just playing. I feel if he was fit, exactly. So it's a great player, but just in FPL you want to stay away from injury-prone players. So
no Arsenal players.
Wow.
No, stay away from Tierney. But my next point is you want to look for players that are also out of position, that are in defense. So they could be defenders on the game, but they play in the midfield. So that brings the question that if Tierney is injured, and you have Zinchenko who needs to be in the starting lineup or is demanding starting time, he could be playing in your midfield. Or if Tierney's injured, he could be playing at the back. So I think, like Perisic, he's a good pick at 5.0, which is also cheaper than Perisic at 5.5. But he isn't necessarily a winger like Perisic is, or who plays way up the field. But he's a good pick.
Also, I do want to mention Brighton's fixtures with United, Newcastle, West Ham for the first 3. I remember in this season, we effectively have 3 wildcards. So you sort of really want to maximize the amount of time that you have now. You're not having like a long-term pick that's going to get better fixtures later on. You probably want to use your wild card at week 8, so your season effectively becomes shorter. And first 3 fixtures just aren't good enough to justify the punt, in my opinion.
Okay. You heard it all here. This is
I'll finish your notebook there, sir.
It's a phone now.
You and me are taking notes right now. Hopefully this season we can win, but maybe they've got their secrets.
I don't expect to win. I just expect to make people fear me. Basically,
just play better. Yeah. I'll wait. I'm with that energy.
Next group is midfielders. This is an interesting one because you've got Mo Salah. Some people say you can't play this game without him, but you've also got Son in there. You've got Kevin De Bruyne. There's so many combinations that you can do. I'm going to go with you, Dean. What do you look for in the midfield? How do you line your midfield up? And what's a value buy there if you're not going for premium?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. If you don't have Salah in your team, just don't play FPL.
I'm putting him in right now.
So, I mean, if you had to say essentials there. But I think a lot of it obviously moves around what your budget has. And I think there is a lot of value to be had in some of the cheaper midfielders. I think previously we had a lot more value in cheaper midfields than what we probably have this season. But one of the big names that a lot of people are throwing out there is obviously Pedro Neto from Wolves. Wolves' first 6 fixtures are pretty good. Neto's playing up front. He's scored in preseason. And the nice thing with Wolves is, to Teppo's point, like the first 6 fixtures are good and then they go bad. So pick him for the 6 because it's good for 6 and then you can move him on. So for me, one of the sort of value options, if you want to look at that, is definitely Pedro Neto. But again, you're looking at what you're kind of looking at in a midfielder is you can't have defensive midfielders in your FPL team. You need to avoid them at all costs. So even if you have a very cheap midfielder at like a 4.5, and I'm probably going to take someone else's value here, but Andreas Pereira at Fulham for 4.5 playing just behind Mitrovic is a game changer. So it's almost like template. You have to have him in your team pretty much. So you, in those lower ranges, you need someone that plays, someone that's cheap, and someone that is more attacking than defensive mind. There's no point in getting a Kante or a Højbjerg from Spurs or Jorginho or a Kovacic from Chelsea. There's just no point. So you need attacking, and that's the only thing you worry about in midfielders.
So that's an interesting call. Yes?
Kent's point. So somebody like United, for instance, have Rashford listed as a midfielder, but for all intents and purposes, he'd probably be playing up front.
I've had Rashford in my team. He's my punt. So it's definitely that United midfielders are very cheap this season. And if you pick the right one, even Sancho at 7.5, if you pick them early, their price could skyrocket and they could do well. But again, it's United. So
that's the big question. It's United. Outside of the Rashford pick, let's go to you, Teppo. What are you looking for this season in your midfield? How are you going to be putting it all together? And where do you see value?
I'm not going to lie. I've been scratching my head about my midfield for a long time. Obviously, you have your people like Salah. You need that type of person to be there, the premium midfielder, just in case you want to pivot to Son, because you can't sleep on Son. So you want that versatility there, but at the same time, effective ownership will smack you. If Salah returns, he's taking penalties. It's going to hurt you. So he should be your number one pick because he's also on penalties of the 3 there. So for now, that's key. There's also an argument to be made about that 8 million slot, because you sort of want slots to be able to find the best person at that slot. Because I mean, that slot is filled with absolute crackerjacker players. Like Saka took a penalty the other day. Phil Foden in a Manchester City side that's can score goals, will score goals. Luis Diaz is in conversations. Mason Mount isn't really being slept on, but I mean, Chelsea fans will know he's like the engine. He's the sauce. He's the Chelsea sauce, and somehow he gets returns the whole time, So
let's not forget Ginger Salah as well. Ginger Salah
as well, Yes,
Ginger Salah
coming in from the right. So that's Madison as well, who might be going to Newcastle. Yes, but 8 million slots, it's something that you definitely need to be considering. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. The rest, the budget picks, Leon Bailey, but that's all.
Yes, that's my value pick for the season at 5 million. It's an easy one, especially if you go with Kent's big at the back scenario and strategy. And I'm going with you, Kent. You've got big at the back. How do you manage that midfield now that the money is all gone and you've got those big midfield defenders?
You can go for 2 strategies in my case. You get someone like Salah, and then everyone else has to be below basically 8 million. But you could also, if you want to, have quite a strikers that are under 10, and then have a Son and a Salah, and then have cheaper strikers, and then still have comfortable players that are maybe 7, 6s, and then a 4.5. I'm not gonna make that mistake. I think there is a striker, or a few strikers this season that are worth getting. So I'm gonna just get Salah. I think, as mentioned already, the 8 million pick is going to be crucial, and that's just luck of the draw. We will soon see after 6 game weeks who is really in form. I'm going with Mount. I think Chelsea. I think people are sleeping on Chelsea.
So good, yeah.
Their fixtures are good. Mount is just the focal point in that Chelsea attack. Also, Chelsea strikers don't score; they get these goals from their midfield.
Yes.
So I think Mount's a good pick. Then Neto, as mentioned already, I think there's a lot of value in his 5.5 there. And my one player then that I'm going to be picking is Martinelli at 6 million. I think he has been starting on the left wing for Arsenal.
Is this
in
Arsenal
preseason.
bias?
No, it's not. We just won goals.
He seems like he looked very sharp in preseason. He looks fit. And Smith Rowe seems like he's just a constant injury concern at the moment. So Martinelli's biggest concern would be whether he starts every game. But I think it's a punt worth going. And as Tsepo also mentioned, you want to select your best team for the first 8 fixtures. You're not thinking long term here, so you need to go power until those 8 fixtures and use the wild card. So yeah, I'm lining up like that. I'm gonna have just Mo Salah and then a few between 8 and 6 million pounds.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Dean, you had a question for Kent.
Yeah, well, I'm glad he mentioned it because I wanted to ask if he's sticking Martinelli in there because I think how much is he? Is he 6 or 6.5?
6.
Six.
Odegaard is 6.5. Martinelli is 6.
Yeah.
It's a really good pick because
So,
especially with the whole Gabby.
Yeah. So I think there is a lot to I can't pick an Arsenal player. So my 6 million.
How did you come close to winning?
Sucks to be you.
Yeah, well, he did fall at the last hurdle, so it could have been because of this Arsenal rule. So who knows?
No, but I think on the Arsenal point, I think there's obviously a lot of value in Martinelli, but the big question is he going to start? So I guess the question was, how confident in you, especially now with the 5 subs, that he's going to play week in, week out for the 60 minutes?
Look, I think for me, he's the guy who starts on the left most of the games this season. And that's where your midfield, your 5th midfielder and your other striker needs to come in to try and balance out in case Martinelli doesn't actually play. But the way in which Arsenal have set up in preseason, the way that I know Mikel wants to play, Martinelli will always be a threat. So too Saka on the right. You just need to find the one who has value. And right now, Martinelli has every other chance of actually scoring, and he's giving you midfield numbers at 6. You can actually even go and splurge on somebody else and have him there at 6 if you even have a Leon Bailey. So I think those are things people need to just balance out and figure out, because Martinelli, because it's the same thing with Rashford, right? Would you either have Rashford or Martinelli?
Rashford, because he's
as much as I dislike both of them. Yeah.
But Martinelli's cheaper at 6. You might get the same production.
Either of them.
You could have.
I think right now fixtures line up so nicely for Arsenal. So
Arsenal are probably one of the best fixture runs at the start of the season that you could probably ask for, other than maybe Chelsea.
Which is the best news ever, because the fall is going to be intense. Is it not there?
Yes, it is your turn, Cyrus.
So
yes, Cyrus.
I always struggle with this idea of having cheap strikers, but when you look at the way the game went last season, all the strikers were absolutely dog turd, except for Cristiano Ronaldo. And then later on in the season, Harry Kane weighed in with some stuff, right? I'm not even going to forwards yet. Stop it.
Sorry. Cool. Okay. You're talking about Cristiano. What am I supposed to do?
No, it's strategy. So and this goes back to Kent's point about picking people who are going to be playing in different positions. And for me, one must have is Raheem Sterling. The only
this is Chelsea bias. This is pure Chelsea bias now.
But remember something, Dean. I absolutely hated this guy in the game because he never gave me stuff. And the reason I see this is Chelsea's game against Udinese, their last friendly. He was played as the central striker in that space, and he was fantastic, really fantastic. He connected the play a lot. He's going to get on the ball a lot, and he's going to have chances. And he missed a few, but he did score in the end. And I think that he'd be somebody that I'm willing to take a punt on if I then have and this is where the problem with Mo Salah comes in, is you're going to have to splurge 13 on him and then 10 million on Sterling. But if I'm looking at it that way, then my forwards, I'm going to be picking Mitrovic for days. So I'm looking at Sterling as being one of the central guys that I will have in my midfield. But to go further back into this whole thing around the 8 millions, you've got Saka, who's there, Kulusevski, Luis Diaz, all great picks, I think, because of where they'll be playing, how they'll be utilized. But let's not forget Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle, who was superb last season. And I think the one thing I don't quite understand is why Newcastle haven't purchased more players. But I do think they might do so closer to the deadline. But Bruno Guimaraes is going to be central to any good thing that happens for Newcastle. And that also then leads to my point around forwards when we get there. But I've looked at it and said, look, I think Sterling is going to be one of those where he'll be playing as a striker more than anybody else in that Chelsea lineup, or rather as the sort of false nine. And I think you'd get a lot of value out of him if you look at it that way.
Tempo, you had wanted to respond to Cyrus?
I think it was just that 10 million price tag. It's just
such a weird price.
Sterling.
It's so awkward. Like it's just too far away from Son and just too much from like the 8. It's like right there in the middle, and that's like my only objection. But yes, he looks so good in the front. But I feel like Mount sort of feeds off that. You know, of the 3 that I'd want, Mount has like the best value, certainty for minutes. And I don't want 2 Chelsea players because I'm so yeah.
I'm with you, but if anything, Mount will play a heck of a lot of games. Sterling will too. There's just no question. They've brought him in for a real reason. And Tuchel, I don't think he'll be forced to play. I mean, we haven't seen Timo Werner at all, really, in the latter parts of preseason. And Kai Havertz looks like he should be. He looks like shy Havertz right now. So I think that
still plays though, but yes, I agree.
Absolutely, to hell with him. He's selling us dreams, Seppo, and we shouldn't fall for it just because we won a Champions League. I think Sterling's the one.
Sterling is the one. As we move over to the forwards, I'm going to go with Seppo here on your forwards pick. How are you splitting it up? Is it just Harry Kane and find another striker, or what are you looking for?
So, essentially, it's Harry Kane or Haaland, but Harry Kane first and then Haaland. Maybe you could do that, but that 11.5 is nice. And then, obviously, the most owned player in the game, Jesus. I mean, this man is flying. And I felt this energy with Antonio last season with West Ham at the beginning. Remember Antonio Benrahma, that type of stuff. It's happening with Arsenal, and there are reasons for it. So just put him in your team. He's going to hurt you if you don't have him. Right now, I might not do this, but I have Martial in my team. He's my cheeky United pick here. And I have like a very cheap midfield. I'm feeling a little bit shy about it, but at the same time, this is still yes. This is
maybe this is
still
where
United.
You win the Ballon d'Or, bro. Maybe.
You know what? He's looking a lot better with Eric Ten Hag. Cristiano didn't look so good. He looks like he's a team player, and the 3 in the front there, Sancho, Rashford, and Martial, they look good together. And you saw Martial playing in a very Firmino type role. So I feel like he'll get a lot of returns for his price tag. So yeah, I think he's my favorite pick of the 3 United players if you're going to take a punt. And I think you can take a punt. So yeah.
You can take a punt. Martial's the name. I'm going to go to you, Dean. Where do you sit? Obviously, you're going to have Harry Kane, unless if you want to have Son. How do you fit the other strikers, and where's the value in the striker pool?
So I've gotten Kane and Son in my team, and Salah. So the reason why I'm doing that, 3 million. So I'm going Son, Kane for the first game versus Southampton. Historically, we enjoy Southampton. I reckon there's going to be a lot of goals in there, and it's going to be Son and Kane. After that, though, City play Bournemouth, and then the decision comes: do you move to Haaland, or you could move to KDB, which is the decision I'm also doing, because you could Son KDB same price, Haaland Kane same price. So looking at that, I've probably transferred between Kane and Haaland about 20 times in all of the drafts I've put together. So it is a tough decision. But I'm sticking with Kane for now. Could change before Friday, who knows? But that Community Shield, that miss at the end, I was like, okay, this is a transfer out Haaland back to Kane. On some of the sort of value picks, I think if we're looking at fixtures again, there's not a lot of cheap strikers with nice fixtures early on. Mitrovic is 6 or 6.5 terrible opening fixtures.
6.5.
And then going up there, you need like 7, 7.58, which is then in case you might as well just spend a bit more and get Jesus. So there's not a lot of value for the cheaper strikers early on. There's that Undav from Brighton, but also don't know if he's going to start, don't know what's going to happen. So I've gone Kane and 2 4.5 strikers. And one of them is Archer from Aston Villa. So Steven Gerrard's come out and said that he's sticking around. He wants him to kind of play a little bit more, feature a little bit more. And now with the 5 subs, I reckon Archer's not going to play game in or week in, week out with Watkins and Ings there. But I do think at 4.5, he's probably the best 4.5 striker you can get in terms of game time, potential game time at least. But at least someone that the manager has taken notice of and backs a little bit. So strikers for me is a tough one because I've had Jesus in my team and I have a strict no Arsenal rule, and looking at him in my team just made me feel sick. So I can't have Jesus in. Darwin is another option which you could go for from Liverpool, but he's 9, which removes another Liverpool position. So there is value there for me, though. It's like Tepo said, it's Kane, Haaland. Pick your choice, make your choice, because no one knows what's going to happen at the moment.
4-5-1. That's what Dean's going for his first game week. He's given the cat out the bag there. Cyrus, what's your massive striker plan to close out your midfield plan that you spoke about earlier?
So I was talking about it in terms of the midfielders, and the real issue here is you have to have Jesus. I think he's one of those where Arsenal should do quite well at the beginning of the season, and he'll be central to what happens. I've gotten Callum Wilson, and I think he's also one of those where maybe it's because I've got a soft spot for the Magpies, but I do think that Callum Wilson, when fit, and this goes and it bucks Kent's trend of injury-prone guys. I think I love the dream and not the reality. And Callum Wilson, maybe this is the time where he will finally manage to keep away a lot of those injury issues, but he shouldn't be injured in game 1 at the very least. So I've gone Callum Wilson.
Watch that classic warm-up injury.
What did you pull? I pulled my self-esteem. So I think Callum Wilson is one of those where I just love him as a center forward. He seems to get into the right positions. And Newcastle, I think, will have a pretty good start to the season as well. One player that nobody's mentioned, and I'm sure Kent will probably be the one to be like, oh man, I was going to say that, is Alvarez at Man City. I was actually really, really interested in seeing how he came on in the Community Shield. We don't do charity anymore. Come on, people. And
sorry, community.
He looked okay. It was Tepo who did it first. But he looked okay. and I kind of like, he had that poacher's instinct about him, where it was one of those where, City don't necessarily play with strikers, and that's why Haaland, they worked their socks off to try and get him involved. But he was also lost out there because the Pep system is unlike anything he's ever played in, except for when Alvarez was there and he was like, okay, I'm just going to stick my boot in and see what happens. So I'm thinking about putting him on the bench. I had Watkins there. I'll be totally honest, I haven't really decided 100% of my team, but there will be 1 or 2 of these surprises. And I like the fact that there are some 4.5s that might make the 11. But that's just me.
Isn't Paul's internet terrible again?
I certainly hope it's not.
Okay.
I hope that.
Let's close out. Okay.
Your internet is so bad.
It's bad again. Okay,
It's
Kent, if you can hear me, let's close out with you. What's your forward strategy to close out this show?
My forward strategy is pretty boring. I think everyone's touched on everything already. I'm going Kane, Jesus. I think Kane, you just can't sleep on him. Haaland, there's a lot of questions around Haaland.
Okay, guys.
It's worth whether
Keep
it's
going,
worth
Ken.
11.5.
Keep going,
I'll
Ken.
keep going. Whether
Well,
it's worth
sorry
the
about that, everyone,
11.5.
but yeah. Kent, you're the last person to go and tell us about your forward strategy.
Just keep going, Ken.
As I was
Don't
saying-
stop now.
As I was saying, yeah, Haaland, I think, is too many question marks. The fixtures are looking good, as Dean said. Cyrus, with regards to your Alvarez punt, I think 6.5 on your bench is quite a lot of money. That's the only reason I would shy away from him. Pep Roulette also a thing. If you're gonna go with the punt of having 6.5 on your bench and the man isn't starting week in, week out, even if he's in form, Pep can easily just bench players on form. It's just I would need to first see a run of fixtures and goals to come with that. But yeah, Jesus, I think he's got 73% ownership now. If you don't go with
player in FPL history,
if you don't go with him and he just scores or assists, I think your game week rank just gets shot.
I'm gonna either be stone last or first.
Join first.
Literally.
But I do want to. I like that point though. Although I want to ask something as well. I mean, and maybe if Impor catches up with us at some point, we can ask him just a question. But do you guys have any sort of sleepers in any one of these positions where you think this is a guy that I'd love to have in my team that might not necessarily make sense immediately? Like for me, I'm looking at Eze at Crystal Palace, and I'm like, that guy is incredible, and Palace might do something if he's playing well. And they also signed some other player as well. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah,
there's also Michael Elise at Crystal Palace looks really, really good. And I did see that player you're talking about, this man, that he just looks like he's insane. He plays for Palace. I can't remember his name now.
Is it Planche?
Skillful.
No,
it's not Planche.
But again, Palace's fixtures are so bad at the beginning.
That's the problem. Even Zaha's been on fire. So but
with the sleepers side, it's just too early to make that call. You can do it with a bit of Dutch courage and maybe it comes off. But I think everyone goes with a sure thing at the beginning of the season.
This is where Ben Rama starts to shine. I think, I'm looking at the Ben Ramas here and I'm like, maybe he's gonna do something. A madness, a mazza.
Yeah, but Ben Rama had good fixtures. But Ben Rama had good fixtures. Don't forget that at the beginning of the season, West Ham's fixtures were stupid, so good. So you had to get onto them.
Cyrus, look at it like this though. When a player is a punt, people will soon realize that he's on form, and then they will transfer him in. But if you go for a punt, it's a headache to get him out your team, because then it could take a free transfer -4 or something like that. If someone like Ben Rama, after 3 game weeks, everyone knew Ben Rama is the pick, and everyone got him in. So your benefit was maybe 12 points or so on a massive punt. So it's just about if you go with the punts, it's a luck of the
I'm
draw.
just trying to win a game week. That's all I'm saying. I don't need to win the entire thing. If I can win a game week, I'm going to crow about that for the next 3 years. So, that's why I'm looking at the punt.
My best strategy then, my best strategy for you then, Si, is to triple captain game week 1. Or bench boost game week 1, because you pretty much know the starting lineups. There's a lot of starting lineups that are pretty assured at game week 1. If you bench boost game week 1, there's a very, very good chance your whole bench will be playing. So there's a few people using the strategy of maybe bench boosting game week 1, because it's the lineups are pretty set in stone. There's no injuries to worry about, and you can pick your best bench team now.
Yeah,
but then the fallback, and that's what happens often with me, is that I start dropping so far behind it's pointless even trying to catch up. But if I'm that far ahead because I bench boost in game 1, Wow, that's
Yay.
just mad. And we should, I mean, is that one of the wild cards that will be used again? Like, will we be able to have that? It's just
No,
a
I
one
think
stop, right?
it's a once-off. I've never seen a bench boost twice. You might just get there's 3 wild cards, and you might get a free hit if something unprecedented happens this season, like what happened last season. But Cyrus, I think you go full out, and then if it doesn't work out, you can then give up at the end. But rather put all your horses or all your put it all out there in the beginning and see how you do. I think it's a good strategy if you want to keep yourself interested, at least for the first half of the season.
Okay, I'll try that. I think the thing though is I'm just trying to have fun. Most of the time, fantasy football is one of those headaches where you wonder why the hell you even started in the first damn place.
Facts.
It's all about having fun at the end, Cyrus. You are right. People take it a bit too seriously.
Like Dean, who almost ripped up his shirt like Hulk Hogan.
But the thing is, like, as soon as you get into it, you watch and I know I know Kent and Sepp will do, because we all do the same things. We all watch the same YouTube oaks that do FPL. We all follow the same Twitter guys that are saying the same thing, and we all like, yeah, that's actually a good point. Let me do that, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like just takes over.
But guys, you need to be the ones now who are the fountain of knowledge, the guys that people are watching to get tips. So that's what we're doing here on Cheap Seats FPL. And thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Sorry about the internet issues, but thanks, Sai, for carrying on the conversation. You've heard everybody else's tips and tricks and everything else. I had my fantasy page on the side trying to figure out if I could do what Kent's doing, or if I could do what Tip was doing, or if I could do what Cyrus is doing. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show. All the best for the season. And remember, Friday night, you've got that 1 hour before kickoff, before it all goes down. All the best to everybody. May you have the best season ever. And we'll reconvene every week talking about what our weekly ins and outs are going to be. And maybe we might even ask the guys to give us a little taste of what's on that starting lineup. But outside of that, have a great day. Goodbye, good night, and le sale, cacajizo.